I'm Maya Bennett, and this past Thanksgiving was one I'll never forget. Before moving forward with the story, I hope you have liked, shared, and subscribed. And if you liked the story, please comment according to your choice and subscribe, so you can get to hear more interesting stories like this again. My family had made up some excuse to keep me from joining dinner. But the truth was, I was the only one left out. While everyone sat around the table, laughing and celebrating, I was invisible. Why? Because I'm just an AC technician, working hard every day, fixing things most people can't even understand. But here's the twist, they didn't care about that. You see, I was the one who had been paying for my sister Olivia's college tuition. The same sister who pretended I didn't exist. The same family that took my money with open arms, but didn't want me at the table when it counted. I remember locking up my HVAC shop that evening. The neon sign flickered in the twilight, the Seattle chill biting through my jacket. But despite the cold outside, there was a warmth inside me, a growing clarity. Thanksgiving was just a few days away, and for the first time, I felt like I could focus on something other than emergency repairs or unpaid work orders. I had prepped everything at the shop, jobs scheduled, bonuses ready for the team, and yes, even picked out a nice bottle of wine for the holiday dinner. I wanted to show up like I always did, supporting my family quietly, without complaint. But my heart had been quietly simmering with resentment for years, and this time, something felt different. I climbed into my truck, and my phone lit up. Helen Bennett, my mother. Normally, this would have been a pre-holiday check-in, the casual, which pie should I bring, type of call. But when I answered, her voice was hesitant, clipped with a tension I hadn't heard in years. Maya, honey, about Thanksgiving, she began, a pause heavy with something unsaid. Sure, what's going on? I replied, trying to keep my tone light as I pulled out of the parking lot. There was another pause. Then, the words came, we think it would be best if you skip dinner this year. I nearly slammed the steering wheel. Wait, what? Well, she continued, trying to sound calm, this year we are keeping things a bit more formal. Olivia's boyfriend, Ethan, is bringing his parents, and we thought maybe it's better to have just the close family present. I could feel my chest tighten. I am close family, Mom. Of course you are, sweetheart, she said quickly, her voice dripping with forced politeness. It's just, you know how these professional families can be. It's important for Olivia to make a good impression. I froze. There it was, the message I had feared but couldn't accept. My life, my work, my dedication, all meaningless to them because I didn't fit some imaginary standard. So because I don't wear a suit and tie, I'm not allowed at dinner? I asked, my voice rising. I'm not good enough. Maya, don't make this about you, Mom said, a practiced evasion. I laughed, humorless. Oh, I see. It's not about me at all. It's about making sure Olivia isn't embarrassed by her lowly sister, right? She didn't respond. That silence was confirmation enough. After years of paying for Olivia's tuition, covering every expense, and ensuring she never had to worry about a thing, I realized I wasn't allowed in the room because they were ashamed of me. Ashamed of the life I built with my own hands, ashamed of my honesty, ashamed of my integrity. I hung up and sat in the truck, gripping the steering wheel, breathing shallow. Thanksgiving alone. Just one dinner, they thought would hurt. But in reality, it was a wake-up call. Later, my phone buzzed again, a text from Claire, my cousin. I overheard Mom and Olivia talking. Olivia said she didn't want you there because she was afraid you'd make her look bad in front of Ethan's parents. She said, I don't want them to think we come from a working-class background. My stomach sank. My own sister, the one I had supported, was ashamed of me. Thanksgiving Day came, and I spent it alone. I tried to distract myself, long drive, diner coffee, calling friends, but nothing eased the ache in my chest. That evening, I glanced at social media. There they were, Olivia in a sleek dress, Ethan by her side, the perfect family dinner. And I was nowhere. Something inside me shifted. If I wasn't good enough to sit at their table, then my money wasn't good enough to fund Olivia's tuition either. The next morning, I woke up with clarity instead of relief. I made coffee, pulled out my laptop, and logged into the university portal. 2 weeks left until the next payment. $21,500. I had covered every semester without hesitation. This time, I hovered over the option to remove my payment method. Confirmation popped up, "Are you sure? This action cannot be undone." I clicked yes. And just like that, for the first time, I was free. The moment my laptop snapped shut after removing my payment method, a strange calm settled over me. My phone buzzed almost immediately. Helen, again. I let it ring. Twice. 3 times. By the 4th call, I finally picked up, bracing myself for the usual wave of guilt trips. Maya, her voice was sharp, urgent. I just got off the phone with Olivia. She's hysterical. You cut off her tuition. Tell me that's not true. Yes, Mom. It's true, I said, flatly, sipping my coffee. I didn't bother with excuses. She'd had years to teach Olivia about respect and gratitude, and now it was my turn to teach them all a lesson. Cruel, Mom hissed, the word dripping with accusation. Cruel, I repeated, humorless. Is that really the word you want to use? Because it was Olivia, who was embarrassed to have me at Thanksgiving. She was the one pretending I didn't exist. I didn't ruin her life, she's been doing that all on her own. Mom paused, then launched into her usual guilt-laden speech. You promised you'd support her through school. I promised to help my sister, not someone who treats me like disposable property, I shot back, my grip tightening on my mug. My tone was calm, but beneath it simmered years of frustration and anger. She's 24, Mom. Old enough to make choices for herself. And now, she's going to learn the consequences. There was silence. I let it linger. Mom had nothing rehearsed, no quick comeback about the family's honor, no subtle threats about sacrifices and obligations. I let the silence stretch, then said simply, I'm done. Olivia is on her own. Mom sighed, exasperated. You're being dramatic. No, Mom. I'm being honest, I said. And I hung up. For the first time in years, the weight of someone else's life wasn't on my shoulders. It felt liberating and terrifying all at once. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Claire. Maya. Olivia is freaking out. She called Ethan. She has no idea what to do now. I smiled faintly. Good. Let her panic. Let her see what real consequences feel like. Not long after, my phone rang again, this time it was Olivia herself. I let it ring. Once. Twice. I didn't feel guilty, didn't feel the urge to explain or apologize. She had made her choice, now it was time to face the fallout. Her messages were desperate. Maya, if you don't fix this, I won't be able to enroll next semester. You can't just do this to me. I considered replying, not my problem. But before I could send, I deleted the messages. Why bother? She wouldn't understand. Years of support and sacrifices, gone unnoticed, unappreciated. She only noticed what she lost, not what she had. Then came Ethan. She went straight to him, storming into his apartment, eyes wide with panic, hair a mess from rushing. I can't believe this, she shouted, pacing his living room. Maya cut me off. No warning, no explanation. Ethan blinked, confused. Wait. Maya. Your sister? Yes, she snapped. She just stopped paying my tuition. I've called her, but she won't answer. Ethan frowned, processing. I thought your parents were covering it. Olivia froze, realizing she had to lie. Well, yes, but Maya has been helping me too, she mumbled, avoiding his gaze. Ethan's brow furrowed. Most of it. All of it, she admitted quietly. His expression darkened. Wait, so the sister who's been paying for your college wasn't even allowed at Thanksgiving? And you let me think your parents were handling everything? She waved him off, trying to sound casual. It's not a big deal. Ethan's voice turned sharp. And she wasn't invited to Thanksgiving. Her face flushed, no words came. And that's when it clicked for him. The person who had carried her through school financially was the same person they had humiliated, excluded from the holiday. His calm, measured voice was terrifying in its intensity. She supported you all this time, and you treated her like she didn't exist. Olivia stammered, scrambling to explain. It was about appearances. About making a good impression. Not that I didn't appreciate what Maya did. Ethan shook his head slowly. You mean the world where the people who actually help you aren't polished enough to acknowledge? That world. Her throat tightened. She had no argument. Back at my place, I was quiet, listening to the buzzing phone that no longer dictated my emotions. Olivia had nowhere to go, no one to turn to, and for the first time, she would feel the consequences of her choices. The weight of her panic, her scrambling, was strangely satisfying. I had been invisible for years, but now, the table had turned. And Olivia? She was just beginning to understand that actions have consequences. The next morning, I woke up to a storm of notifications. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. Olivia and my family were in full panic mode. I ignored them all. There was a strange sense of power in letting them stew in their own mess, a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Her first voicemail was frantic, voice trembling. Maya, please. I don't know what to do. If I can't pay tuition, I can't enroll next semester. You have to help me. I let out a humorless laugh and set the phone aside. No. This was exactly the lesson she needed. Years of using me as a financial crutch, pretending I didn't exist, and hiding from her friends the fact that I kept her afloat. It was time she experienced the consequences. The family calls started next. Mom, naturally, led the charge. Maya, come on. You can't just do this. She's your sister. I took a slow sip of my coffee. Mom, she's not my responsibility anymore. She's old enough to face her own choices. You're being so harsh, Mom insisted. Family helps each other. You promised. I promised to help a sister, not someone who treats me like disposable property. That's it. Dad called next, voice deep and rumbling. You're punishing her, Maya. This is your own blood. You mean the sister who laughed at me being excluded from Thanksgiving while taking my money? I snapped. Yes, I am punishing the one who ignored me. The one who disrespected me. The one who never acknowledged the sacrifices I made. They tried every angle, pleas, guilt, threats, and even subtle manipulations, but I stayed silent, firm. Their words bounced off me. I wasn't going to cave this time. Years of bending, apologizing, and excusing behavior were over. Meanwhile, Olivia's panic reached its peak. She started calling everyone, extended family, friends, anyone she could think of, trying to find someone to pressure me. None of it worked. She even tried reaching Ethan again, but he was already piecing together the truth and wasn't going to be swayed by her excuses. Her desperation became public in small ways. A few neighbors called me at work, trying to relay Olivia's side of the story. A local friend messaged me, saying, Maya, people are saying Olivia is being left without options. You should fix this. I didn't respond. Why should I? She had years to appreciate, to acknowledge, to respect me, and she chose the opposite. At the office, employees started noticing subtle tension. Clients asked if everything was okay. I brushed it off, telling them it was a personal matter. Yet, the gossip spread. Olivia had made sure of that. She wanted everyone to know, to shame me, to manipulate public opinion in her favor. Then came the texts from Claire. Maya, she's showing up at everyone's doors. She's terrified. Mom's telling her to call you and fix it. Dad is on her case. She doesn't know what to do. I smiled faintly. Good. Panic suits her. She had spent years living in my shadow, counting on my support, ignoring me completely. Now, for the first time, she was facing the real world, one that didn't revolve around her convenience. By mid-afternoon, the family's messages had reached a crescendo. Cousins, aunts, uncles, even distant family members called, all with the same plea, Maya, you're being too harsh. She's young, she doesn't know better. I shook my head. She knows exactly what she's doing, I murmured to myself. Every exclusion, every lie, every manipulation was intentional. This wasn't ignorance, it was calculated. The final straw came when Olivia sent a barrage of texts demanding immediate payment. Maya. This is ruining my life. I can't enroll. You have to fix this. I didn't respond. I didn't feel a shred of guilt. For years, I had lived under the weight of her lies and the family's manipulations. For the first time, I wasn't the one bending. I wasn't the one excusing bad behavior. I wasn't the one apologizing for someone else's mistakes. By evening, I had unplugged from the world entirely. Notifications continued to pile up, but I ignored them. In the quiet, I realized how much lighter I felt, how freeing it was to finally say, enough. I was done cleaning up after others. I was done being invisible. And Olivia. She was learning, the hard way, what it felt like when your actions had consequences. And unlike all the times she had taken my help for granted, this time, no one would bail her out. I sat back in my chair, letting the silence stretch. This was only the beginning. She still had a long way to go before understanding what respect and gratitude actually meant. And I. For the first time, I was finally free to focus on myself. The next day, I walked into my office feeling a sense of calm I hadn't known in years. The storm from yesterday, the frantic texts, the family calls, Olivia's desperation, had left me strangely liberated. For the first time, I wasn't reacting. I wasn't being manipulated. I was observing. Of course, the world outside my office door didn't care about my serenity. Olivia had decided that leaving no stone unturned was her strategy. By mid-morning, I noticed a new layer of chaos. My phone buzzed incessantly with missed calls, texts, and even voicemails from her and our relatives. Every message dripped with urgency, guilt, and frustration. I let them sit unread. I focused on work instead, tackling emails, planning projects, and organizing my crew's schedule. Their work ethic depended on me, and unlike Olivia, they didn't pretend to be something they weren't. There was a comfort in this reliability, a stark contrast to the chaos she thrived on. By noon, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a video call. I didn't answer. A message popped up after a few rings, Maya, please. I've called everyone. I don't know what to do. This is a nightmare. I smiled faintly, setting the phone down. It was the first time she truly understood panic. She had spent years depending on me, knowing I'd cover for her. She had manipulated family, hid the truth, and walked through life untouched by real consequences. Now, she was forced to confront reality, and it was beautiful in its own cold way. At the office, my senior technician, Lucas, noticed my calm. "Everything okay, boss?" he asked, eyebrows raised. "Yes," I replied, my voice steady. "Finally, everything's okay." Lucas raised an eyebrow, sensing the unspoken tension in my words. He had seen the family storm before, the chaos that followed Olivia's whims, and the way it always landed on my shoulders. "You look different. Lighter." I nodded. "I am. Finally, I'm done carrying the weight of someone else's mistakes." By mid-afternoon, Olivia escalated her efforts. She started messaging family friends, clients she thought I might know, anyone who could pressure me into compliance. My phone buzzed with unfamiliar numbers, and I realized she was attempting to turn the world against me. I laughed quietly to myself. Let her try. This time, I wasn't vulnerable. This time, I didn't care. Then came the first in-person confrontation. One of her classmates showed up at my shop, hands shaking, delivering a message from Olivia. "She says if you don't help, her entire future is ruined." I looked at the young woman, trying to maintain composure. "I see," I said. "Well, she has to face the consequences of her own choices. I've helped for years. It's time she learned something." The girl looked confused, hesitant. "But, don't you care about her?" I smiled faintly, coldly. I cared enough to teach her how to manage her life responsibly. Now she has to do it herself. Back in the office, I sat at my desk and reflected. 4 years, I had been the silent provider, the invisible supporter. Olivia lived comfortably while erasing me from her life. She had thought she could continue this pattern indefinitely. But now, the tables had turned. By evening, Olivia's panic became public. Social media posts, frantic calls to mutual friends, even visits to our parents, she was desperate. My family tried to intervene, but their attempts were futile. They had relied on me for financial support, yet they had never acknowledged my presence at Thanksgiving, nor my sacrifices. Suddenly, my absence from Olivia's life highlighted the imbalance, and no one could justify her entitlement anymore. I leaned back in my chair, letting the quiet wash over me. This was the power of boundaries, the strength in standing firm. For the first time in years, I was living for myself, not for anyone else's convenience or approval. Olivia's panic, the family's desperation, the world's pressure, they were all outside my control. My control was here, within myself. And in that moment, I realized the truth. Freedom wasn't just about cutting ties, it was about reclaiming your life, asserting your worth, and refusing to be invisible any longer. Olivia could scream, beg, manipulate, and plead, but I had chosen myself, and that choice would no longer be negotiable. The next morning, the tension was palpable even before I stepped into the shop. The messages, calls, and social media chaos from Olivia hadn't stopped overnight. In fact, they had escalated. She was relentless, scrambling to undo what she could, but I remained unmoved. By mid-morning, a knock at the door caught my attention. I looked up and saw Olivia standing there, hair disheveled, eyes wide with panic. She had finally decided that showing up in person was her only option. I didn't stand immediately. I let her fume in the foyer, letting the weight of her own choices settle around her. "Olivia," I said finally, my voice calm but firm. "What are you doing here?" She inhaled sharply, stepping forward. "You can't do this. You can't just cut me off. My whole life, everything depends on you." I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence stretch before I responded. "Olivia, everything you've depended on me for was a choice I made. And for years, I've carried your life on my shoulders. But I'm done. You've had every opportunity to acknowledge me, respect me, and appreciate what I've done. You chose not to. Now it's time for you to take responsibility for yourself. Her lips trembled, but she squared her shoulders, trying to muster defiance. You don't understand. This isn't fair. Mom, Dad, they'll make you fix this. You have to pay my tuition, or I'll fail. I shook my head slowly, each movement deliberate. No, Olivia. That ship has sailed. You had years of support. You had someone who believed in you. And you repaid that trust with shame, lies, and manipulation. I can't do it anymore. She took a step closer, almost pleading. Please. Just one more semester. I'll do anything. I can't lose everything. I met her gaze, steady and unwavering. This isn't about punishment. It's about learning, Olivia. You've been living in a bubble, pretending consequences didn't exist. Now, you have to face them. Her voice rose, bordering on hysteria. You're destroying me. You're ruining my life. I sighed, standing up slowly, towering over her in the quiet office. No, Olivia. You've been destroying your own life for years. I simply refuse to enable it anymore. She staggered back, disbelief etched across her face. I don't understand. How can you be so cold? You're my sister. Yes, I am your sister, I replied, my tone firm. But being family doesn't mean being a doormat. It doesn't mean ignoring your own worth to keep someone else comfortable. You've spent your life pretending I didn't exist, hiding me from your friends, and embarrassing me. I've had enough. Her hands shook as she tried to find words. But I thought I could, you always. I cut her off gently but resolutely. You thought wrong. I was never just a resource, Olivia. I am a person, and I deserve respect. That means you face reality, with no safety net to catch you. You'll learn to stand on your own. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't speak. The realization finally hit her, the control she thought she had over me, the power she had relied on, was gone. I watched her struggle against the truth, her pride warring with her fear. I can't believe you're doing this, she whispered, voice cracking. I'm not doing this to hurt you, I said softly, taking a step back. I'm doing this to free both of us. You need to understand the value of your choices. And I need to reclaim my life. This is the only way it works. She fell silent, the room heavy with unspoken words. For the first time, she saw the consequences of her actions without someone else catching the fall. She realized that the sister she had shamed, the sister she had ignored, was stronger than she ever imagined. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she turned and left. The door closed with a definitive click, leaving a quiet emptiness in the office. I sank back into my chair, letting the silence envelop me. The confrontation was over. For the first time in years, I had drawn a line in the sand and refused to step back. Olivia's panic, her cries, her manipulation, it no longer held power over me. Maya had taken control. And in taking control, I had finally discovered the strength of choosing myself. The morning after Olivia stormed out, the calm in my life felt strange but liberating. The tension that had been building for years, the weight of silent sacrifices, ignored boundaries, and unacknowledged effort, was finally lifted. For the first time, I didn't wake up bracing for some disaster, or another call demanding I fix someone else's mistakes. Emails, texts, and calls from my family began trickling in, as expected. But now, instead of immediate panic or guilt, I simply let them sit. My mother's attempts at persuasion were predictable. Her voice was measured, dripping with controlled concern. Maya, you have to help Olivia, she urged in one message. She's your sister. This could ruin her future. I read it and exhaled slowly. My answer was already clear before I even typed it. not my responsibility. Years of carrying burdens that weren't mine had taught me that sometimes, the best lesson is letting people face the consequences of their choices. Olivia would finally have to learn independence, resilience, and accountability. By mid-morning, I decided to check social media, half expecting a storm of comments from people siding with Olivia. Indeed, her posts were everywhere, pleas, veiled accusations, attempts to paint me as the villain. But something inside me had shifted. For the first time, I didn't care. I knew the truth. I had acted with integrity and strength, something her posts could never undermine. Later that afternoon, a message arrived from Genevieve. She'd been keeping an eye on the situation, and her words brought a small smile to my face. You did the right thing, Maya. Finally standing up for yourself is everything. Don't let them guilt you. I closed my laptop, savoring the quiet. My business had grown steadily while this drama unfolded. Expansion plans, new clients, and ambitious projects awaited my attention. For so long, my time, energy, and resources had been consumed by family emergencies that weren't emergencies for me. Now, I could refocus on building my future without compromise. By evening, the reality of Olivia's absence settled in. She hadn't contacted the university directly, hadn't found a way to circumvent the consequences. For the first time, she was learning the hard truth: life doesn't hand you solutions just because you demand them. There is no safety net when you treat others as disposable. Meanwhile, the ripple effects of her actions spread through our family. My mother tried subtle manipulations, suggesting joint conversations or temporary solutions, but I remained firm. Every attempt to guilt me into submission was met with calm resolve. I had drawn a line, and I wasn't crossing it. In the quiet of the night, I reflected on the past months. I remembered Thanksgiving, the calls, the texts, the moments of quiet humiliation when I realized I was invisible in my own family's eyes. And I realized something profound: their approval was never my responsibility. My self-worth, my peace, and my life didn't need their validation. Olivia's shame of me, her lies, and her manipulations were reflections of her own insecurities, not my failures. Over the next few days, the dynamics shifted. Friends and colleagues noticed the change in me. There was a confidence, a clarity, and an unmistakable aura of empowerment. They asked what had happened, and I simply smiled, letting them see the transformation without divulging the chaos behind it. Maya wasn't just surviving anymore, she was thriving. Then, one afternoon, a surprising message arrived, not from Olivia, but from Dorian. His tone was neutral, professional, but there was an edge of understanding. I've come to realize the situation with Olivia. I wanted to let you know that I respect your choices and your boundaries. Well done. I leaned back, letting the weight of that acknowledgement sink in. For years, I had hidden, excused, and rationalized behavior that wasn't acceptable. But now, with my family's influence fading and my personal boundaries firmly established, I felt lighter than ever. Olivia's eventual email to the university, begging for help, went unanswered. Her panic became her lesson. And while it was hard to watch from afar, I understood that sometimes, the most meaningful act of love, or self-respect, is letting people face the consequences of their actions. Maya had finally claimed her life. She had drawn lines, stood firm, and refused to let anyone dictate her worth. And in doing so, she realized an essential truth: respect, love, and acknowledgement must be mutual. Anything less is not obligation, it's exploitation. And in the silence that followed, I finally felt the kind of peace I had been chasing for years: freedom. True, unwavering, self-earned freedom.